What happened?
All right, good to be here, everyone. Thanks for joining us on stage. Really excited for this. Ordinals gang out here, as we were saying earlier. Yeah, to start off with, really, I mean, Ordinals is a new technology, minting, inscribing, it's all new tech. We want to go into it more deeply. These are some of the OGs, some of the experts here working on really interesting projects related to this. So just to start off, we'd love to do a brief introduction going around. Both your background, you guys have all worked on multiple things in the crypto space, and then what led you to Ordinals and like what makes you excited about it. Yeah, to start off, for context, I lead the blockchain research team at Coinbase. We focus on everything that's up and coming in the crypto ecosystem, specifically on the technical side. So Ordinals has been a huge focus for us. So really excited to learn more from all of you. So we can start.
Perfect. Hi, everybody. My name is Brian Laughlin. I go by Brushstar on the interwebs. I'm the co-founder of Ordinals Bot. We were the first ever inscription service. And I also launched an NFT collection on Ethereum called Satoshables. And so I started my life over on the Ethereum side. And I got introduced to stacks through Trevor Owens. I think you all know Trevor. And he basically said, these things belong on Bitcoin. So I created the first ever NFT bridge from Ethereum to stacks. And we bridged over about 30% of our community. They got involved in the stacks ecosystem, and that really flipped me over to the Bitcoin world. And ever since then, I've been obsessed with Bitcoin, and really following along with stacks. And then when the Ordinals thing dropped earlier this year, kind of seen the potential of what it could do to Bitcoin, and I think that's played out now, where you see a ton of excitement and everyone looking at Bitcoin in a different light, and a lot of developers coming back into the space. So excited to talk about it today.
Amazing. My name is Jan. I'm a CSO of Xverse, and I'm doing this because we're a startup, right? So everybody on the team is doing a lot of different things, not just one. I joined the company about a year ago, and it was actually before Ordinals happened, and I was the guy that ruined our CEO's vacation because I was like, hey, we got to get into this, we got to make it happen. And I joined Xverse also actually thanks to introduction from Trevor, who is a very good friend of mine for many years. And I had that kind of gut feeling in me that something is about to happen on Bitcoin, that Bitcoin is such a vast network, but not much innovation was really happening there. And so I felt like it's a great opportunity. And obviously, you have to start with infrastructure, right? And building a wallet that is sleek, that is easy to use, to me, it was a no-brainer. And I really enjoy building kind of foundational piece of technology, even back in the days when I was doing different startups. And so really, it was a no-brainer. And yeah, since then, it has been a ride. We have seen Ordinals going from basically nothing to 35 million plus inscriptions and a lot of these things happening here. So super excited to be here, guys.
Yeah, it's a very exciting time for Bitcoin. I mean, I've been in the space for about, I guess, coming on to 10 years now. We actually imported the first two-way Bitcoin ATM into the country in 2014 as a kind of baptism by fire, just to learn about Bitcoin. I'm not a developer or anything. So that was when the journey started, and I've just been obsessed with Bitcoin ever since. And when we discovered Blockstack, which became Stacks, started building on that network as well. But just right now, I mean, I never thought I'd experience this level of excitement back on Bitcoin. I thought it had done its thing, and we were now just trying to support it. But actually, the fact that we're now doing things like I'm, putting music on chain, and it's just super exciting. I'm very excited to be here. But yeah, on Stacks, we started a marketplace called This Is Number One 2 years ago. And I've just been looking for ways to get more integrated into Bitcoin, and then Ordinals just completely changed the game in so many ways, and we're still in the process of that game-changing moment. It's not done yet. We're still figuring stuff out, aren't we? I mean, every day is just a new day in Ordinals on Bitcoin. Yeah.
100%. Super exciting. Thanks for sharing, everyone. We're talking about Ordinals quite a bit here. Obviously, this is the focus of the panel, but would love to, for folks who are not aware, can one of you kind of explain what Ordinals are and why they're important?
Sure. So Ordinals theory was created by Casey Rodimer, who is a Bitcoin dev. He's been in Bitcoin for many years. He says he's not a core contributor, but he has contributed to the core code. And he's also an artist, and he wanted a way of putting some of his artwork on chain. He looked at other chains and didn't really want to use those. He wanted to find out if he could do it on Bitcoin. So that led him down the road of like, how do I inscribe my stuff on Bitcoin? He obviously knew that Taproot was available, where you can put arbitrary data into via Taproot. But then how do you parse that? How do you consume that data that's in there? And I think that led him down the road of creating Ordinals theory. And he created it in a way where one Satoshi is no longer one Satoshi. He essentially designed Ordinals theory to give each individual Satoshi its own unique number sequentially. And through that, it's almost like an invisible layer on top. There's been no change to Bitcoin. It's not a layer 2. The way I describe it to people, it's kind of just like how maths is maths, just the way it is. Casey figured this out, but someone else could kind of come to the same conclusion. And I think that Ordinals is a really nice lens of looking at how Bitcoin works under the hood. So yeah, there's kind of two tracks. There's the ordinal theory that sits on top, is the way of kind of mapping the things, and then there's the inscriptions, which is the actual process of putting the data on chain, and the two work one on one. So it's a way of identifying the sats, but it's also a way of like consuming the data that's attached to it.
Yeah, and like from my side, simplified version of that is like, ordinals are not NFTs, right? Ordinals are what we like to call digital artifacts, and they live on Bitcoin, most decentralized chain in the world that has been around for the longest time. And so, to me, that value proposition is just incredible.
Absolutely.
That was what really changed things, wasn't it? It was the fact that a traditional NFT involves a kind of proof of ownership and then the item itself. And what Ordinals has done is combine them into a single entity. So you now have the artwork and the proof of it are one and the same on chain, and that's what's really changed things. Yeah.
Makes total sense. And in terms of like on chain, like you mentioned, you're doing some really cool stuff by putting artwork on chain. How does one actually inscribe and mint an ordinal, like to go step by step?
I mean,
well, you need to get Xverse first, that's for sure.
Then you need to go to ordinalspot.com. Yeah, I mean, I can take it. So that's kind of why I created Ordinalsbot, is because I'm a front-end developer, I'm a product guy. So when it comes to Bitcoin development and kind of understanding, it's quite a heavy lift for most retail people to understand. So I instantly really liked the idea of Ordinals because it's on-chain, and that resonated with me coming from Ethereum, which are essentially just pointers to somewhere else. This stuff was really on-chain, so I really wanted to try and inscribe my first thing, which happened to be my PFP. But when I looked into it, you have to run your own Bitcoin node, you have to run the Ordinals client, which, there should be more people running Bitcoin nodes. We're definitely advocates of that. But for a retail user who just wants to get involved, it was quite a hurdle. So my product mind kicked in. I thought this might be something that we could, a use case that we could help with people. And yeah, we launched it over a weekend, basically. I partnered with one of the people I've worked with in the past, and I put a front end on it. We launched it over the weekend, and essentially made a drag and drop interface where people can just drag the file on. We handle the inscription in the back end, and then it gets sent to the end user's wallet. So that's
Xverse, right?
Any Bitcoin wallet, I must say, but especially Xverse. So since then, it's been really an exciting thing, and we've been building out our API as well for developers to build on top of. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say that, heads off to you guys. I mean, you really changed the game. I remember inscribing some of my early inscriptions thanks to you guys at Ordinalsbot, and so that really changed the game. Obviously, we have kind of come a long way since then, right? Ordinalsbot has made a lot of different innovations, improvements, and allowing people to inscribe on uncommon sets and all of these different things. And so it has been incredible to watch that in the past couple months, we have been able to come such a long way. And ultimately, for us, we play a very big part there too, right? Because you mentioned any Bitcoin wallet. I would say it's not true.
That's true, yeah.
Because, you need to have a wallet that actually supports the Taproot address that supports Ordinals, because not every single Bitcoin wallet supports Ordinals. And you may end up in a situation that you end up losing them, right, because of that. So you should definitely be very mindful of that. And, one of the reasons why I pushed our team so hard into Ordinals was that I was in those early spaces with Trevor. We're hosting these Twitter spaces basically every day for 5 hours back in February. And I saw like people are using Sparrow Wallet, right? And Sparrow Wallet is cool. It's amazing. It's amazing tool. But just like it's not for a normal person. It's like you need to be a developer. You need to be, or at least you need to know what's going on. You need to really understand like the nuances of the chain and like what is this address, what is that, and how do I send this transaction to there? And not many people just can use that, right? Like you need really sleek UI to onboard those like hundreds of thousands of people that came from Ethereum, from Solana to Degen in Ordinals, right? And so obviously we played, I would say, significant role in actually getting those people involved.
Yeah, I think also that was needed, right? Bitcoin was kind of stuck in that moment. The question was, why wasn't it fixed before? And the reason was because they didn't have 2,000 degens screaming about BRC20 tokens. And if you're, degens don't want to follow a 25-step tutorial on how to set up a wallet, right? They want to use something like Ethos where it's a couple of clicks and you're good. So that really, I think that's been one of the big highlights for me about Ordinals, is that it's really pushed that boundary and made people think about UX on Bitcoin, and also then you've got a ton of developers coming in who are taking it even further as well, even outside of Ordinals.
Yeah, makes sense. And in terms of the infrastructure, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. There's bridges, there's folks coming in from other ecosystems, there's folks inscribing and minting. I'll speak from our perspective as Coinbase or as large institutions in the space. What kind of core infrastructure components should we be focusing on to enable this ecosystem to kind of grow and develop? Would love to hear from all of you guys.
I can go.
You want to start, guys?
Yeah, sure. So I think that this is definitely a new paradigm on Bitcoin. Ordinals are essentially just something that someone made up, on top of this thing. So it requires indexers, it requires, all these infrastructure type tooling that has never existed before to kind of parse this information and allow people to consume it. So that's something that's obviously still expanding, and new teams are building really cool things every day. I spoke to someone earlier who's creating a rare sats aggregator to get the pricing and everything, because that's been something we've been struggling with, is how do we price these things and keep our pricing up to date. So even things like that come into the space is really great. I think also we can take a lot of learnings from other chains. We seem to be, the way I look at it is they're kind of like 2 years behind where Ethereum is. So now it's like wallets come into the space, indexers, marketplaces, aggregators. This is all now happening on Bitcoin. So these guys also need infrastructure, they need tooling, and they need everything else, APIs. And I think everyone on the stage is building that kind of stuff, right? Because we like building the picks and shovels for people. That's what gets me going. We've got 20-odd users using our API now, building stuff we never even thought of. And that's what really excites me about it.
Yeah, I mean, you should push all of your users to Xverse. No, I'm joking. Even though it's half joke, right? Because ultimately what you need to do first, you need to acknowledge Ordinals, right? I think we have seen it with many other companies in the space, and we talk and work with many of them. It's not every single one of those companies actually support Ordinals. So it's not Ordinals aware, right? So if I am in my Coinbase account, which I use, by the way, pretty heavily, and let's say I have some Bitcoin there, right? I don't really know if there is any ordinal, and I would like to know that. If I am buying some Bitcoin, I have it in my Coinbase before I send it somewhere else to my cold storage, whatever. I want to know if there are some ordinals or if there are some rare sets and all of these different things, because then I immediately can kind of okay, what do I do with it, right? And then why I say I'm just half joking, with pushing people to Xverse. We actually work with some of the exchanges already, and they're leveraging our infrastructure, is because you need a wallet like Xverse afterwards to send those ordinals to, because we're a Web3 wallet. We can connect to all of these marketplaces, to all of these different, I see Robin from Liquidium over there. Maybe you want to borrow some money against that ordinal, and you're not going to be able to do it from your Coinbase wallet, or at least you're not able to do it right now, and so you need to kind of educate the people that are your users, hey, you probably bought some Bitcoin, you have some extra value in that Bitcoin, so what do you do with that next? This is the clear path, what you can actually do, how you can unlock that extra benefit, right? So I think it comes down to these things, obviously infra APIs, but also the education of the user, what do they do with that extra value afterwards?
Makes sense. Yeah, great tips. Good coverage on the infrastructure. Jim, would love to hear more from you specifically about Ordinals. We spoke a little bit backstage about the tech behind it, the synthesizer, the music that's on chain. Would love to hear just the infrastructure that you're kind of working on.
Sure. I mean, I think for me, ever since I first found Ordinals, I became a bit obsessed with executable code. It was the thing that really excites me still, because there is this modular system there's the ability to build endless modular systems on Bitcoin using recursion, recursive techniques to recall a code that's already there with new code, and it's limitless what you can do with that. And so what I started experimenting with was the idea of, if we could put a little piece of audio on chain and then recursively access that through inscribed plugins, like plugins that you use in digital audio workstations, that you could then create new samples that are not audio. There's no audio being inscribed to chain. There's literally just a chain of processes that all happens on chain. So I've been building a kind of, the start of an on-chain digital audio workstation, kind of like Logic or Pro Tools, where you can then have these chains of audio that effectively you can eventually write songs that exist in a Merkle tree, if you will. So you can have a song where every single sample in that song can express who created it, who owns it, what its rights are attached to it, and that's all held in the song file, a single song file, and this can go through so many cycles. You can have 1,000 songs using a sample and each changing that sample a little bit along the way, but it will always lead back to the original audio sample. Even in 50 years, someone might have taken a drum sound that was originally put on chain, and they've now turned it into something that sounds like a trumpet through all these different, but again, it always leads back. It's not like, one of the biggest problems for the music industry currently is sample tracking and usage and finding out who has used a sample. They're even spending millions to reverse engineer audio samples to try to prove that this is my sample that someone's changed. Whereas in this new sort of Web3 model, that ceases to become a problem, because you always know what you're working with. You can check the authenticity of every audio sample. No matter what it sounds like now, there is a chain that tells you exactly how it got to sound like that. And so that's kind of been, it's been my big mission for the last few months, really, is kind of making that work. So looking forward to showing people in another show next. Yeah,
very, very cool. You're doing a demo shortly after.
In there at 3 o'clock, I think. Yeah. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's a really cool use case for recursion, actually, because, excuse me, you've got a 4, 5, 6, 7 minute long audio file. It's just really hard to inscribe that, because there's obviously limitations to inscriptions. If you're not aware, obviously there's got the 4 megabyte block limit, but then you've got a 400 kilobyte standard transaction limit. So anything above that 400 kilobytes, you have to get a miner to mine, because it's called a non-standard transaction. So that's been a little bit of friction for creators like Jim coming into the space and saying, here's a 5 gigabyte audio file, get it on chain. You're like, well, yeah, give us 25 Bitcoin and we'll do it. But I think that with recursion, these libraries that you're building, basically the little inscriptions over time, you could basically just create a massive libraries of these little sounds, totally easy to inscribe, and create, really complex and huge audio files or songs.
Well, they're not audio files, isn't it? That's the thing I was trying to explain to someone a while ago, is that you could take a single kick sample, and you might have a sample album, say, of lots of kick drums. But what people sometimes fail to realize is that single audio sample has been passed through a chain of different plugins to create a new audio sample. And yes, on a CD, they're all audio, but in this world, they're not. You could take a single piece of audio and create an entire sample CD of new drum sounds just based on software that you've also inscribed that is changing this sound. And there's no more inscribed audio other than the original piece. And you could literally create thousands of different drum sounds by just creating a few different plugins and then different chains of how you use the plugins. And these plugins are tiny. The first synth that I put on chain is it's 3 kilobytes. And this thing does, saw wave, square wave, triangle wave. You've got all cutoff, resonance. You can do all these things in this tiny little file that could just write infinite bass lines and keyboard parts. And so I'm very, very excited about this. Very excited. Yeah.
Curious. I mean, like with the same kind of methodology that you're using to inscribe, these small files, what other forms of use cases can we see in the future in terms of data being encoded on chain that can potentially be inscribed? Curious to.
So we've been working a lot with collections and artists coming to the space. Some big collections from Ethereum are coming with quite large artwork. So it's a question of how do you inscribe that down. And one cool use case I've seen that helps a lot with recursion is that you can actually inscribe the traits. A lot of these PFP collections are made up of individual traits, layers essentially. And what you can do is you can inscribe those layers once, and then through recursion, HTML and JavaScript, basically, you can pull in those layers and flatten the image. So I've been working a lot with that, and I think in general, JavaScript's a powerful language, right? It runs the web, and it's pretty much limitless what you can do with it. And that power that comes with JavaScript is now basically available through Ordinals. So it's honestly just limited to your imagination, basically, now what you can do with an inscription and how you tie them all together. And then there's amazing things coming down the line, like parent-child inscriptions and re-inscriptions and all these cool things, all these amazing endpoints. So it's all the tooling is coming for people to get really creative, whether it's generative art using JavaScript or recursion, pulling in different elements. We've seen also people inscribing games. Someone inscribed Doom. It's really exciting.
Yeah, I don't know if I have too much to add. I think I'm personally really excited to see what's happening now. Because the Ordinals protocol itself, right? It's still evolving. It's still like pretty nascent thing. We just had a Casey Rodermore yesterday on our show. We host twice a week. We host pretty extensive Ordinals and Bitcoin related Twitter spaces. And yesterday he was basically talking that they're about to release the 1.0 version of Ord, right? It has kind of still been not really the official one, in a sense, right? And so they're still launching many of these new upgrades, be it the parent-child, which is not officially live yet. It's kind of already there, but it's not officially live yet. And we have been playing around, or people have been playing around with the recursive inscriptions and stuff like that. I like to see that now more and more artists are actually looking into Bitcoin because of these upgrades, because now they can do collections that have on-chain provenance and stuff like that, right? And so these things are really great. I think that's what's going to bring most of the people here, to be honest, in the short term. That's kind of my guess. But I've seen people building decentralized media publications on Bitcoin thanks to that, right? I think there is still a lot of kind of stuff that needs to be figured out, but the tinkering is happening, the experimentation is happening, and I think that's just the most bullish thing for me, that people actually want to do stuff even with music, like you guys.
Well, I think it's making it easy. That's the next thing, what you were working on, Brian, as well, with the piecing together the layers. The faster we can make this so that there is a way for people to do these things that do not need any technical background.
Yep.
One of the reasons I loved Xverse in the very early on was because it was on my mobile.
Yep.
It was the only way I could look at things on my mobile, and and it's one of the reasons I've been working for the last month to try and make the Ordinals stuff work on mobile, which it is now. So it's the quicker we can make it super easy for people to tap into all this stuff that we are doing the hard work now by experimenting and bashing our heads against walls sometimes to make these things work. But once it's working, once there's a UI there that someone can just tap into and they can do the things that we can very easily say can be done, that's when things will really change, I think, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, speaking of make ease of use, with this audience here, we're in a Bitcoin conference. Who here is actually minted or inscribed in Ordinal? All right, that's a pretty good showing from just this room.
We still have a lot of work to do, man.
We still have a lot of work to do.
We're at the Bitcoin conference and half of the people haven't touched Ordinals.
Yeah. Speaking of, so I actually would love to just dive into that. What are concrete steps this audience can take to interact with your products and also get started with inscribing or minting? Starting with you.
Yeah, excuse me. So I think if ordinalsbot.com, the thing that you see first is the form. Literally drag and drop the file there. We've got optimization. We've got many options to inscribe on rare sats. And then we make it really easy for you. So if you want to inscribe your first Ordinal, it's really easy to do that through ordinalsbot.com. And then, of course, get Xverse to store it in, yeah.
You said it right. I don't have to repeat it. So yeah, obviously, you need a wallet. I'm sure that most of the people at this conference, they already know about Xverse. But if you don't, you should go to xverse.app and either get a mobile version or get a desktop version. Depends what you prefer, or you can get both. And ultimately, go to Ordinals bot, and you can inscribe stuff very quickly, right? Even beyond that, what I would like to say, like if you're developers, I do believe that there is a lot of developers in the audience, not necessarily just collectors. Like reach out to me, like if you have any ideas, if there's anything else that like we should be building as a company in terms of like making it very easy for you. We already have, SATS Connect, which is the open API, open source API that you can use to like connect your app with Xverse and people can easily log in. We also are launching like all sorts of different APIs, like to enable stuff for the developers to make it quicker and easier. And so if there is any specific demands that you guys have, like I would love to have that conversation. We're still super early, right? Like, we have been in this for like 6, 8, 9 months, depends how you look at it, maybe a little bit more if you have been like really, even before it was like, if it officially gained traction, right, in the degen community. Casey has been working on it for a very long time. Like we still have a lot of work to do. And I would love to have those like one-on-one conversations because it's very important to know what your users want. So that's why we're here.
I think I've said everything.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, in terms of like actual Ordinals projects, any ones that you guys, obviously Ordinals is a big one. Any other ones that you guys would recommend folks to check out?
I'm really excited about anyone who's building products and tooling around rare sats. If you're not aware, rare sats are also a cool addition to this ecosystem where we are basically applying value onto sats based on certain attributes. So the first sat of a block that's mined is called an uncommon sat. And it really ties into how Bitcoin is working because obviously it's deterministic. There's only 7 million blocks in the end, and these things have got to be quite rare digital assets. So yeah, anyone building tooling around that, I think that's a really exciting up and coming thing.
Yeah, I mean, there is so much. I mean, I could probably spend like 3 hours talking about what you should be checking out. I don't want to give any financial advice, but we just came from Amsterdam, right? We're there, and so kind of like sharing my experience there. Check out Taproot Wizards if you don't know, what they do, who they are. They throw the best parties. Everybody goes crazy, and they're in Taproot Wizards costumes. So you should definitely check that out. I know that somebody from OCM is here also at this conference. They have been kind of pioneers of a lot of tech, and they have been kind of playing around with parent-child before it was even released. So like definitely check those guys out.
Have you heard of Satoshiables before?
Satoshiables, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Though.
Yeah, that's a pretty good project. Also on Ordinals finally, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So definitely check out those projects and even those communities, right? Like it's not only about like acquiring a specific asset, but it's really like what these communities do for Bitcoin, for Ordinals, because they're really onboarding a lot more people to like come here, degen with us, and like even build products, right? Like another project, OMB, maybe you've heard about them. They have these bounties, right? Like they actually give you all the way up to half a Bitcoin when you build some open source stack for Bitcoin, right? And so it's not only about those like NFTs, quote unquote NFTs like Ordinals and these things, but it's more about the community that is kind of forming around all of these things, So again, super bullish and happy to discuss one-on-one.
Yeah, I would say follow the utility. Follow anyone who is working on growing, new products by utilizing the utility that Ordinals affords, because that's where the excitement is going to come in the future. It's not just the degen stuff. Look for people who are doing really interesting stuff and pushing boundaries with what's possible.
100%. All of you guys are pushing the boundaries here. So definitely come speak to these guys after the panel if you're interested. Glad to have you all. Great convo. Thanks so much. Take care.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Cheers.